This is an extremely important and extremely interesting video. However, it is part 2 of this video. The information in this video is a continuation of the other information that preceded the capture of the shooter of the CEO. There is so much background to this. This is an update. I highly recommend you watch the CEO shot Hilton Hotel, Paris Hilton, Trump in Paris Cathedral fire video. Okay, there's so much going on here. As you can just imagine, I tried to fit some of it into the title even, but it doesn't even, anyway. This is part 1. These 2 videos are must-watch videos, as are really every video on the channel when the prediction comes to pass. But this is these signs, if you will, this collection of stories that God is telling is like the climax, if you will, right before Trump is predicted to die. These are like countdowns, if you will. There's different signs in them that are counting down. December 4th, the day of the shooting, the day Trump was in Paris, the day of the capture, okay? So what I'm saying is that, again, this is part 2. It's a continuation, and I highly recommend you watch what is part 1 first, which is with the thumbnail you are looking at, which includes Paris Hilton and the Paris fire and everything. If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on January 1st, 2025. I am predicting that on January 2nd, 2025, Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on January 2nd, 2025. Martial law will be declared in the U.S. It is predicted that Joe Biden will replace Kamala Harris with Michelle Obama as the vice president. Joe Biden will then step down. Per the 20th Amendment, Congress will vote to make Michelle Obama the temporary president. It is predicted that Joe Biden will then step down and Michelle Obama will become the 47th president, and then she will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. It is then predicted that she will step down on January 12th and Barack Obama will become the 48th president. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. Alternatively, it could also be that the symbolic beginning to the new pandemic will be on April 1st, 2025, and that on April 20th, 2025, martial law will be declared because of the new outbreak. If these predictions for April 1st and April 20th, 2025 do not come to pass, there will be a relevant prophetic sign that will occur on this date, making this date a step in the trail of signs leading to these particular events. It is predicted that on June 9th, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the 5th trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens. The demons pretending to be aliens will claim to be here to help us with our nuclear weapons, And it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist, and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. If June 9th is not the date for these events, there will be a relevant prophetic sign or prophetic signs, which will make June 9th a step in the trail of signs leading to the date of the symbolic beginning of these things. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be at the end of 2026. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived, and more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Make a note right now of these alternative platforms that you can find me on, in case you can't find me later. If you have already watched this essential introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 4 minutes. This important video will talk about God's prophetic signs and connections that pointed to December 26, 2024, regarding the death of President Trump, from a heart attack. Trump is the 45th president. The inverse of 45, 1 divided by 45, is 0.0222. December 26, 2024 was the 20th anniversary of the 220,000 deaths in the Indian Ocean tsunami. 2 hours after Israel bombed targets in Yemen on December 26, 2024, the director of the WHO posted on X that he was meters away from one of the blasts at the airport. 6 people were killed in the bombing. This was on the anniversary of the tsunami that reached Yemen 6 hours after the earthquake. December 26, 2024 was also the day that Pope Francis conducted a ritual of knocking on a prison door 6 times. At this time, Trump was in the news for his post on X regarding the prisoners whose death sentences had been commuted by Biden. Trump said that these prisoners could go to hell. Trump is predicted to die on January 1st, 6 days after the Pope's 6 knocks and the 6 deaths in Yemen on the anniversary of the tsunami that took 6 hours to reach Yemen. Much more regarding these signs on December 26, 2024 are explained in the Israel Nearly Kills WHO Chief video. December 26, 2024 was a very important step in the trail of signs leading to Trump's death on January 1st, 2025. As will be explained in this video, God pointed to December 26, 2024 in advance. It is through these connections between prior signs and December 26, 2024 that God has told many different stories, and these stories convey extremely important information and knowledge that everyone needs to know, which is why this video about how God pointed to December 26th regarding Trump's death must be watched. The same is true for December 12th. If you do not watch the videos that predict that Trump would die on December 12th or December 26th, you will have missed entirely the point of the prediction that is from God. Also, all of the videos that predicted Trump would die on December 26, 2024 are 100% correct, and they all must be watched. And the reason why they are 100% correct, the analysis, is because the prophetic signs on this date confirmed the analysis. Furthermore, like I've explained, Trump is predicted to die 2 + 2 + 2 days after the Pope knocked 2 + 2 + 2 times on the same day as 2 + 2 + 2 deaths in Yemen on the 20th anniversary of the tsunami that killed 220,000 people that took 2 + 2 + 2 hours to reach Yemen. And Trump is the 45th president, and the inverse of 45 is 0.222. If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 17 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that President Trump will die from a heart attack on December 26, 2024. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. December 14th revealed adding 1 + 1 days. The star player in the Navy-Army game that Trump attended was player number 11. He scored the first touchdown on a 1-yard run, and it was in the first quarter, which also hinted at 1-1. There was one interception in the game, which is symbolic of the turning over of political power to the blue team after the predicted death of Trump's death. And the one interception was caught by player number 1 in the first quarter when the score was 7-0. And videos on this channel explain how Trump is a type for Joshua in the Bible, which is symbolized by the number 7. This 1 + 1 days from December 14th to December 16th is also following a 1 + 1 days from December 12th. As I will explain, the signs on December 12th, when it was announced that Trump had been named Person of the Year by Time magazine for the second time, on the same day that he rang the opening bell on Wall Street near Ground Zero, where 2 planes struck 2 towers on 9/11, indicated or revealed adding 2 days to December 12th. And so from December 12th, which I will talk about in this video, we received the signs that indicated adding 2 days to get December 14th, which was the day of the Army-Navy game, which revealed adding 1 + 1 days or 2 days to get December 16th. December 16th was another step in the trail of signs leading to Trump's predicted death, and the signs on December 16th revealed adding another 2 days to reach December 18th, also another step in the trail of signs. On December 16th, there was a school shooting in which the shooter killed 2 people. And the call into 911 was made by a second grader. The 2 deaths and the call made by the second grader hinted at the predicted deaths of 2 political leaders, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And so, from the day that Trump rang the opening bell on Wall Street near Ground Zero, where 2 planes struck 2 towers, when at the same time Time magazine announced that Trump had been named Person of the Year for a second time, it is 2 + 2 + 2 days to December 18th. The date of another extremely prophetic sign on Wall Street. This is astounding because it was through the 9/11 events in Lower Manhattan near Wall Street that God pointed to President George Washington, who was inaugurated on Wall Street, and George Washington was born on the date 2/22, which is why we received a second prophetic sign on Wall Street 2 + 2 + 2 days after he was named the Person of the Year for a second time near where two planes struck two towers in God's warning of judgment and destruction for the nation on 9/11. This is also the prophetic reason why Trump is predicted to die before his second presidency, 2 days after Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash. This is also why the call made to 911, which hints at 9/11, was made by the second grader in the shooting that killed 2 people. On 9/11, 2 planes struck 2 towers near Wall Street. Trump is predicted to die 2 days after it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in the 8+8+8th state to join the Union. The name Donald J. Trump is equal to 888 in English gematria, and the name of Jesus in Greek is equal to 888 in Greek gematria. The name Trump is equal to 88 in simple English gematria. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. Trump is predicted to die 8 days after the second prophetic sign on Wall Street that occurred on December 18th. On 9/11, Trump called into the local TV news station and inadvertently trumpeted that his tower on Wall Street had become the tallest tower in Lower Manhattan. In the events of 9/11 is the story of the heroes of the 88th floor. The Tribute in Lights art installation that commemorated the Twin Towers was made up of 88 searchlights. According to Wikipedia, there are 88 places in America named Washington. Through the 9/11 events, God pointed to George Washington, who was inaugurated at the founding of the nation on Wall Street, after which he marched down Wall Street to Trinity Chapel, where he then consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. God's divine protection and blessings were temporarily removed on 9/11 as a warning for America, and God confirmed this through the fact that Trinity Chapel was the only building at Ground Zero to have survived the falling debris and did not even suffer a broken window due to the uprooted sycamore tree that sheltered the chapel. Today, outside what is now nicknamed the Miracle Chapel, there is a 20-foot-high bronze statue of the roots of this tree to commemorate this. These events on 9/11 pointed to God's warning in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 11 in the Bible for ancient Israel when it was raided by the ancient Assyrians who uprooted the, quote, sycamore trees, unquote, and caused, quote, the bricks have fallen, unquote. The collapse of the towers on 9/11 engendered a small earthquake that cracked the foundation of Federal Hall on Wall Street, where President Washington was inaugurated at the founding of the nation. It symbolized the foundation of America, which is the God of Israel and the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ, being cracked. Trump's first election campaign and presidency were synonymous with his border wall of security. The word Trump in archaic English means trumpet, or the sounding of a trumpet. Before the walls of security of Jericho collapsed in God's judgment, as described in the Bible, the Israelites blew trumpets. On 9/11, Trump called into Channel 9 News and trumpeted that his tower on Wall Street had become the tallest tower in Lower Manhattan, and Wall Street was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning, And the name Wall Street is equal to 45 plus 45 plus 45. The 45th president's first election campaign and the 45th presidency were synonymous with America's southern border wall of security. Trump was shot in the ear as he was talking about the border wall of security. The border wall of security collapsed after the 45th president left office. Trump is predicted to die on the 20th anniversary of the Indian Ocean tsunami that killed 220,000 people. On 9/11, a total of 220 stories collapsed, as each tower was 110 stories high. After 9/11, America sent its military into Afghanistan, and on the 20th anniversary, its operations there dramatically collapsed in another warning of God's impending judgment and destruction of America. The inverse of the number 45, in other words, 1 divided by 45, is equal to 0.0222. This is why the 45th president will die on the 20th anniversary of the 220,000 deaths in the Indian Ocean tsunami, 2 days after the death of the vice president, who is of Indian descent. As a result of these 2 deaths, the 44th president, who grew up in Indonesia for 4 years, will become the president again. And the tsunami 20 years ago was triggered by a magnitude 9 earthquake in Indonesia. 45 is the 9th triangular number. In a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 9th row is 45. Obama was inaugurated in 2009, and he will serve a second presidency that will have skipped the 45th presidency. The inverse of 45 is 0.0222, and exactly 222 months after the events of 9/11 that pointed to Washington, who was born on the date 222, was the 45th president's Oval Office speech regarding the CVD disease that ended precisely as the clock on the live TV news screen ticked 9:11 p.m. Trump's CVD disease speech was on the same day that the begins with a W, ends with an HO declared that it had become begins with a pen, ends with a demic, on the same day that the first professional athlete tested positive who played for the team from the 45th state, the Utah Jazz, and jazz is a genre of music that typically uses trumpets. Exactly 9 months after Trump's CVD disease Oval Office speech was the day of Trump's Oval Office speech regarding the approval of the thing by the begins with an F, ends with a D and A on that day. The approval of the thing was exactly 9 months and 222 months after the events of 9/11 that pointed to the inauguration of Washington on Wall Street, which was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security, and Washington was born on the date 222. The second prophetic sign on Wall Street on December 18th was 2 + 2 + 2 days after Trump was named Time's Person of the Year for the second time, while he rang the opening bell on Wall Street near where 2 planes struck 2 towers. The top news story on December 18th was how the Dow lost 1,123 points. 1,123 is the 188th prime number, and God uses this number to point to H188 in Strong's Hebrew Concordance, which is the Hebrew word that means woe! Exclamation mark. It is used in the Bible in the context of extreme judgment from God. The events of 9/11 that pointed to President George Washington occurred exactly 188 years after the only other time a foreign enemy attacked the nation's capital. On 9/11 in 1813, the British landed at Washington's Mount Vernon estate and then proceeded to burn down the Capitol building and the White House, but not before First Lady Dolly Madison famously rescued the portrait of George Washington. The Wall Street stock market loss on December 18th that pointed to the number 188 occurred 8 days before the predicted death of Trump. Trump's death will symbolize the long-last blast of the trumpets by the Israelites before the walls of security of Jericho collapsed in God's judgment. Trump's death will be the last Trump sign, and it will symbolize the collapse of America's walls of security and the beginning of the destruction of the nation. The loss on Wall Street on December 18th was blamed on the decision and statements by the 16th chairman of the Federal Reserve. The 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, was assassinated, as will Trump be assassinated. The name Abraham is equal to 44 in simple English gematria. Trump's death, the last trumpet sign, will be 4 + 4 days after the loss on Wall Street that was blamed on the 4 × 4th chairman of the Federal Reserve, who was appointed to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors by the 44th president. After Trump's death and the last trumpet sign, the 44th president will become the president again. As outlined in the 20th Amendment, Obama will become a quote-unquote temporary president. This is why Trump, the 45th president, will die on the 20th anniversary of the tsunami that killed 220,000 people. The inverse of the number 45 is the number 0.0222. Prior to the date 12/12, December 12th, 2024, God pointed to December 12th, 2024, related to the death of President Trump. In other words, there are other videos on this channel that are predicting that President Trump would die on December 12th. And as I will explain, these videos and their analyses are 100% correct. The analysis is 100% correct, and these extremely important videos must be watched. The signs that occurred on December 12th that were expected in advance of December 12th confirmed all of the analysis, and as I will explain, the signs revealed adding 2 more days to get December 14th. These other videos that predicted that President Trump would die on December 12th were posted long before December 12th, and I have the email and forensic notes PDF document to document that December 12th was known many weeks before December 12th. On December 12th, 12/12, Trump rang the ceremonial opening bell on Wall Street, and Time magazine announced that Trump had been named Person of the Year for the 2nd time. All right. I do not believe that the date that Israel will nuke Damascus will be December 26th. God is pointing to this date in relation to this, but it is apparent to me that it will more than likely be a step. That's how God's big picture of signs works. They involve steps in the trails of signs, this trail of signs leading to the date that Israel will bomb or nuke Damascus has been going on for years now. And it seems far more than likely that December 26th will be just a step. And it seems the day for Israel to nuke Damascus will be June 8th. In fact, the day of the rapture. Okay? I'll explain more regarding that later. So I just want to make that clear. Something will happen on December 26th. I also have other ideas of what will also happen on December 26th that are not necessarily related to this. But anyway, that's just keep that in mind. All right, there is a ton more to this story. It is now December 9th, and the video needs to be updated yet again. The Lord keeps pouring out the information related to all of this, and it is becoming, or it has become, this ultimate countdown, if you will, to the date it is predicted that President Trump will die. But all of God's signs are interconnected. It's all part of the same mix, if you will. And in the mix here, we have this shooter that killed the CEO in Manhattan. And it is predicted that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan on December 16th. December 16th will be exactly 555 days after the death of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. The Unabomber has come up in this story regarding the killer of the CEO of United Healthcare in Manhattan. Because now that the killer has been caught on December 9th, today, it has come out that the killer was a fan of Ted Kaczynski and had recently read the book about him. I'm not sure which book he read and if Ted Kaczynski made or wrote an autobiography which he read. But whatever is the case, this killer, the shooter in Manhattan, sympathizes with Ted Kaczynski. This is in the news. This is the news story today. And that's why this is relevant. Because we are days away, in fact, 7 days, although I don't know how to connect the 7 into the signs yet, or if there will be a connection. But the day that the killer is caught, and this talk about the Unabomber and the killer's sympathy with the Unabomber is just 7 days before the predicted bombs in Manhattan. And again, the killer, the story of the killer is all about his crime in Manhattan and his escape from Manhattan. And as I have been explaining, this all connects to Barack Obama, the Unabomber. Now, the 555 days connection between the date it is predicted that the dirty bombs or suitcase nuke will explode in Manhattan and the Unabomber's death, this 555 days is also relevant because the shooter committed his crime, like I explained at the beginning of this video, near where the Thanksgiving Day parade was shut down by the protesters protesting genocide on 5th Avenue near the 55th Street. And that's relevant because of Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, whose show The Simple Life went for 5 seasons and 55 episodes. That's why all of this connects or points to the Unabomber, who died 555 days before it is predicted that the bombs will explode in Manhattan. And no doubt there'll be some story regarding the explosions of these predicted bombs connected to some type of domestic terrorist like the Unabomber. My theory, of course, I shouldn't say of course. I say of course because if you have already listened to other videos regarding this that I've made years ago, God has been communicating this explosions of the dirty bombs in Manhattan and evacuation for years in his big picture of prophetic signs, which is only being explained on this channel. I've been making videos regarding this since early 2021. But all along, it has been suspected that this will be a false flag. And it will be blamed on so-called domestic terrorists or Christian nationalists, etc. That's the communist left agenda here. And so I think that's why the Lord is pointing to the Unabomber in all of this. All right, wow. So one of the first things the Unabomber did was bomb an American Airlines flight from Chicago to Washington, D.C., which hints at the Antichrist, who is from Chicago, residing as the Antichrist in Washington, D.C. The flight number was 444, which hints at the 44th president from Chicago. That in itself is also a confirmation for the 555 days connection. Also, 444 plus 555 is 999, and the number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel. As from the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment, and God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. And so 444 plus 555 equaling 999 gives us 3 nines, an emphasis of this meaning of the number 9. In other words, the explosions that are coming in Manhattan will be judgment from God. But make no mistake, it isn't, the intended judgment isn't the destruction that will happen in Manhattan. It's what will be the result of the bombings, including what I just alluded to. The demonization of conservatives and Christians, and the rise of the 44th president Antichrist. Now, what is amazing beyond words that could only have been learned just now? The day of this Unabomber bombing of Flight 444 was November 15th, 1979. First of all, let's talk about 1979. This is a very extremely important year that God has been pointing to. For many months now, God has been repeatedly pointing to 1979 in his big picture of signs. In doing so, he's also pointed, for example, to the 79th anniversary of Victory Day in 1945. But that's also because in 1979 was the release of the movie Apocalypse Now that cost famously or infamously $45 million. And this August 15th, 2024 was the 45th anniversary of the movie that cost $45 million, Apocalypse Now, which is communicating symbolically the apocalypse beginning now. August 15th, 2024 was also at the same time the 79th anniversary of the victory of World War II in 45. President Trump is the 45th president. The apocalypse will begin after the death of the 45th president, which will lead to the rise of the 44th president as the Antichrist. In the mix of all of this will be the explosions in Manhattan, which incidentally is where the 45th president is from and where he has his prophetic Trump Tower. These explosions predicted to be on December 16th will be 4 days after the predicted death of the president who is from Manhattan. That brings us back to Flight 444. which occurred, the bombing of it, I should say the bombing of it, it occurred on November 15th, 1979. Exactly 3 months after the release of Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million. That's why this capture of this shooter, this killer in Manhattan, that committed his crime in Manhattan, pointed to the Unabomber 3 days before the predicted death of President Trump. The Unabomber bombed Flight 444, and the predicted death of President Trump, who is from Manhattan, is predicted to be 4 days before the predicted dirty bombs in Manhattan. And so I just figured it out. I said a minute ago I wasn't sure about the 7 days connection. It's broken into 3 and 4. The bombing of Flight 444 occurred exactly 3 months after the very prophetic release of Apocalypse Now. And the capture of the killer points to the Unabomber. The story is all about how he sympathized with the Unabomber and was a type of Unabomber. And his capture is 3 days, hence the 3 months connection or interval between the release of Apocalypse Now and the Unabomber bombing Flight 444. That's the reason for this 3 days connection from the killer who is a type for the Unabomber to the predicted death of Trump in Manhattan 4 days before the predicted dirty bombs in Manhattan, and that's why Flight 444. The 44th president and the 4 days. All right, now here is more to the update regarding what just happened, the new revelation regarding this story of the shooter that killed the CEO in front of United Healthcare. Again, that's a hint at the mark of the Antichrist, which is related to healthcare. And the shooter, not surprisingly, was caught in a McDonald's. This is amazing, and if you recall at the beginning of this video, we connected the shooting to the Thanksgiving Day parade that was stopped in front of the Ronald McDonald float. And as has been explained, I'm pretty sure already in this video, Donald Trump, God has connected Donald Trump to McDonald's. McDonald's Donald Trump. That's why Donald Trump prophetically served French fries in a McDonald's in Pennsylvania, which is where the shooter was caught, in a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. I'll get into more details here. That's why also 2 days after Donald Trump was in a McDonald's was the day the CDC announced the outbreak of E. coli in McDonald's. So, the shooter of the United Healthcare CEO was caught in a McDonald's with a fake ID, Mark Rosario, from the third state, New Jersey. This is 3 days before Trump's predicted death. That's another confirmation of this 3 days from the capture of the shooter. Not only is the 3 months between the Flight 444 bombing and the release of Apocalypse Now confirmation of this 3 days, but also the shooter had an ID from the third state. As soon as I learned that the shooter had been caught without knowing any other information, it immediately occurred to me, I bet you there is in some way a New Jersey in the signs. I instinctively knew that right away because I recognized, okay, the shooter's been caught. What day is it? It's December 9th. How many days is that to Trump's death? It's 3 days. I bet you anything there is a New Jersey something in the signs. And sure enough, the big news is how he was carrying a fake ID that he was using in New York from New Jersey. The story is about his fake ID It's a New Jersey ID, the third state, which confirms the 3 days to Trump's predicted death. Now, the capture of the shooter is also 22 days, which again is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, after Trump and the gang posted their McDonald's meal in Trump's plane, a high place, on November 17th. H1117 is the word in the Hebrew concordance that means Bama, capital B, Bama, as in proper noun. And it means high place. That's because Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven in Luke 10:18. Barack Obama means lightning from heaven in Hebrew. Barak means lightning in Hebrew. Bama means high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven. As it is, for example, said that Lucifer fell from the high place, a metaphor for heaven. And also high place is a euphemism used in the Bible for the false religious worship that the Jews would conduct on the tops of mountains. In the language Jesus would have spoken, Aramaic, the word from is O, and so Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, knowing that it would confuse us, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. And so that is why the significance of the Trump gang, which included, incidentally, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., Donald Trump Jr., and Donald Trump at a table in the Trump plane in a high place. They were eating McDonald's. Donald Trump Jr. posted on November 17th an image of them together eating McDonald's with the joke that Make America Healthy Again begins tomorrow. Okay, so in other words, and it was national news. In other words, the news story is about McDonald's, and it involves Trump. It's 22 days because the shooter shot the CEO of United Healthcare, which hints at the mark of the Antichrist, which is symbolized by the number 22. I assume I've already explained that, so I won't explain it again. If I haven't, then it's explained in other videos. Well, it's just so quick, why not just say it again? So the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist was described in the Old Testament in the book of Ezekiel and would have been a Tav mark, which is the symbol in ancient Hebrew, because the letters of the alphabet are also symbols for things. It's the symbol for a mark, but it is also the last and 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. And so that's why the capture of the shooter of the United Healthcare CEO was 22 days after Trump and the gang were eating McDonald's in the high place. The shooter of the United Healthcare CEO was caught in a McDonald's in the second state. 50 days, which symbolizes the church. Pentecost symbolizes the church, and Pentecost literally means 50th day. This capture of the shooter in the McDonald's in the second state was 50 days after Trump was in a McDonald's in the second state. That's 2 twos. These 2 different McDonald's in the second state gives us or hints at the number 22. And again, that's relevant because the crime was committed against the CEO of United Healthcare, and the mark of the Antichrist, symbolized by 22, is related to healthcare and the healthcare industry. Okay, this 50 days is also 1 month and 19 days, which hints at Revelation 9:11, which is the verse that symbolizes the coming mass demonic possession of those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist. to get from the McDonald's in Feasterville, Trevose, Pennsylvania, which is where Trump was, in Buck County, and the assassination of Trump was just before the Buck full moon in July, which is another story. It just goes on into infinity, God's signs. It's just incredible. So it's just amazing. So anyway, Trump was in the Buck County there. You know what? If you looked into it, you could find so much more, including the Milwaukee Bucks, the NBA. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But anyway, to get from the McDonald's in Feasterville, and speaking of going on, this is in itself a hint at the coming famine, the coming rationing of food. Feast. He's in a restaurant, McDonald's. It's food. This is a clear prophetic sign that's communicating the coming restriction on buying and selling food to those who have not taken the mark of the Antichrist. That's why Trump was in McDonald's in Feasterville, Trevose, in a restaurant in the second state, which two twos gives us 22, the number that symbolizes the mark. The restaurant is located on Route 132, but that's a number that hints at the Antichrist, who will occupy the White House, which has 132 rooms, and 132 is 44 plus 44 plus 44, and God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning, and the number 44 hints at the 44th president, the Antichrist, in the White House. Trump was in a building, the McDonald's house. It was on Route 132. And to get from that McDonald's on Feasterville, in Feasterville, one needs to take, which by the way is a suburb of Philadelphia, which is one of the 7 churches, the only one that Jesus said would be spared the coming tribulation from this severe persecution from the Antichrist, which will be the restriction on buying and selling food. Okay, so anyway, to get from this McDonald's that Trump was in, you obviously go down the Route 132 to get to the I-99, which is a national highway, the interstate highway, which makes this national judgment symbolism. And again, the number 9 is the most important number, as from the Bible it symbolizes God's judgment. So the I-99 is the first highway you get onto, the first interstate. Okay, and no, I'm doing it in reverse. Why am I doing it in reverse? Okay, so from the 132 route, you get onto the I-276. Yes, okay. Oh, I forgot to write in the paragraph here. The news is saying that the location in which the shooter was caught in the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, is 276 miles from New York. That's what the news is saying, at least the New York Post. Okay, it's giving this number of miles between, because the story is about how far the shooter got, how he escaped New York City, and how he had to be captured outside of New York City. So the story, in other words, is about his location on the run, and he escaped 276 miles outside of New York. But to get between the two McDonald's in Pennsylvania, one needs to take from the one in Feasterville near Philadelphia, the I-276. That's extremely prophetic. It's an extremely prophetic number in the Bible. It's, for one thing, one of 3 unusually specific numbers in the Bible that coincidentally are all triangular numbers. In a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 23rd row is 276. 276 is the 23rd triangular number. The number 23 is used in God's signs to point to the basketball president who wore jersey number 23. But to confirm it, he pairs 23 and 44 and 9 together, because the 44th president was inaugurated in 09. And also the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in the book of Ezekiel chapter 9, and it changes, the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes, for which a person has 23 pairs. So anyway, this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9, 23, and 44. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of signs from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 7 years. And so I just explained why 9, 23, and 44. Okay? So, again, from the root 44 plus 44 plus 44, you take the I-276, which is the 23rd triangular number, and then you take the I-76, which hints at 176, and 176 is 4 times 44. And then you take the I-99. That's a massive, astounding pairing of 9, 23, and 44, which confirms the signs and connections and points to the Antichrist, Barack Obama. The shooter of the United Healthcare CEO in Manhattan was caught on the day that the Dow Jones in Manhattan closed at 44,401.93 points. This hints at the 44th president, but also the Unabomber who bombed Flight 444, and also 193, which is hinted at with 1.93 right here, is the 44th prime number. This is an amazing confirmation that God is pointing to the 44th president through all of this. What's also amazing is that what I just realized as I was reading it is that the Unabomber, which is what is being pointed to with the capture of the shooter, because he is a sympathetic Unabomber, sympathetic of the Unabomber, and is a type of Unabomber, type of terrorist, he bombed Flight 144, and that's why we have this 44,400, and then a 0 there, and then a 1.93, which gives us the 44th president, but also Flight 444, and 193 is the 44th prime number. Now, the name of the killer is Luigi Nicholas Mangione. Nicholas hints at Nicole Richie, because as I have explained, all of this connects into Paris Hilton, and Trump in Paris, and the Hilton Hotel. And Paris Hilton starred with her friend Nicole Richie. And as I explained earlier, this Nicole hints at the Nicolaitan, which hints at the church. And again, the day of the capture of the shooter in the McDonald's was exactly 50 days after Trump was in the McDonald's, and Trump is trumpeting this judgment for the church. Because before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment, the Israelites blew trumpets. But also, we're talking in connection to all of this, Philadelphia, the only church that will be spared the coming persecution from the Antichrist, in the rapture, which is alluded to with the phrase written by Paul, the last trump. Trump's death will be a last capital T Trump sign, which alludes to the phrase, the last trump, which is a reference to a trumpet blast. On the day that the Dow Jones in Manhattan closed at 44,401.93, which again hints at the 44th president and the 44th prime number, the shooter of the United Healthcare CEO in Manhattan was caught in the McDonald's 48 days, as in the 48th president, future president Barack Obama, 48 days after the CDC announced the McDonald's E. coli outbreak, which is hinting at this coming outbreak because December 9th, 2024, the day that the shooter was caught, is 44 plus 44 plus 44 days to April 20th, 2025. And this day, December 9th, is 113 days, which hints at G131 in the Greek concordance, which is the word that means blood disease, which is what a person gets after they take the thing, the mark of the Antichrist, to April 1st, 2025. That's a typo. These are the dates, the 2 dates that God is pointing to regarding the coming new pandemic and martial law declared because of it, and the coming mark, or the thing, the SHOT for it, which will be also a mark of the Antichrist. Because the CVD one was already the mark of the Antichrist. And make no mistake, the reason why this prediction in this video, and the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction, is to prove what I have just said. It is the mark of the Antichrist. It is currently in its current form. It does not need an additional something to go with it, such as an additional technology or false form of religious worship. In fact, for those that are wise, there was false religious worship with it, and also does not require a new supposed dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians will be raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is in fact judgment for this particular doctrine, which Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine, which includes following the sycophant followers of their priests and pastors, telling them that it wasn't the mark of the Antichrist and to make their own decision. That's the consequence of being a Nicolaitan, following your pastor that tells you that it wasn't the mark of the Antichrist, instead of relying on the Holy Spirit and other Christians that were warning you who did have the Holy Spirit regarding this. The shooter of the United Healthcare CEO used an alternative fake name, and his real name is Prophetic. Okay, so that's the story here. This shooter used an alternative fake name. He had the fake ID, so he was using an alternative fake name, and also his real name is Prophetic, which I will explain. Which I already did alluded to. I already started to explain it because of his middle name being Nicholas, hinting at Nicole Richie and the Nicolaitan doctrine. So likewise, Pope Francis is an alternative fake name, because Catholicism is fake Christianity, for Jorge Mario Bergoglio, which is the real name of Pope Francis, who uses the fake alternative name of Pope Francis. The office of papacy is blasphemy. Luigi Nicholas Mangione's middle name is Prophetic, as I just explained, his middle name Nicholas, and hints at the church. Likewise, Jorge Mario Bergoglio's middle name is Prophetic, and Mario Bergoglio, I should say that is Mario Bergoglio, hints at Marburg outbreak, hints at a Marburg outbreak. Mario Bergoglio hints at a Marburg outbreak, 113 days. Or 44 plus 44 plus 40 days later. Again, these two dates, numbers of days, gets us to April 1st and April 20th next year. Okay. And so that's relevant because also of this, because Luigi is his first name, the shooter's real first name. Okay? Luigi and Mario hints at Super Mario Brothers. And God has been using this movie for prophetic purposes, including the coming Marburg outbreak. Okay, and also the Super Mario Brothers are about mushrooms and mushroom clouds, and which hints at mushroom clouds, and okay. I got to make another video about, a different video about that. But anyway, Luigi and Mario hints at Super Mario Brothers. The movie Super Mario Brothers, because, okay, Luigi is the shooter and Mario is the Pope, right? The movie Super Mario Brothers was released on April 5th, 2023, 614 days before Luigi Nicholas Mangione was caught and his name was learned. The name Luigi was learned on 614 days after the Luigi and Mario movie. 614 is the 188th semi-prime number, a number only divisible by two other prime numbers. God frequently uses this number 188 to point to H188 in Strong's Hebrew Concordance, which is the word that means woe, exclamation mark, used in the context of extreme judgment from God. 614 also hints at Donald Trump's birth date, June 14th. Trump is predicted to die 8 days after the shooting in front of the Hilton Hotel, which again hinted at H8 and 88, and that's the equivalent of the name Trump in Simple English Gematria. And in Manhattan, where the Hilton Hotel shooting took place, there was the heroes of the 88th floor on 9/11, and also the Twin Towers were commemorated with the Tribute in Light art installation that was made up of 88 searchlights. And through the 9/11 events, God pointed to George Washington, which according to Wikipedia, there are 88 places in America named Washington. But anyway, Trump is predicted to die, as I explained earlier, 8 days after the shooting in front of the HH Hotel. Trump is predicted to die 5 days after Trump was in Paris for the reopening of the cathedral after 5 years of repairs, and the bells ringing for 5 minutes in a test earlier in November. And again, this is all connected because of Paris Hilton. And also, Trump is predicted to die 3 days after the killer of the United Healthcare CEO was arrested with a fake ID from the third state. And it was learned that he was a sympathizer of the Unabomber who bombed Flight 444 exactly 3 months after the movie Apocalypse Now was released, that famously cost $45 million, and Trump is the 45th president. Mark Rosario, the fake alternative name on the fake ID from the third state, is equal to 138 in Simple English Gematria, and Donald Trump is equal to 138 in Simple English Gematria. In other words, this is astounding confirmation that all of this is, in fact, pointing to the date. It is predicted that President Trump will die. On June 9th, also in Manhattan, Daniel Penny was found not guilty. Charges were dropped. The penny dropped is a phrase or an idiom that means to indicate that someone has finally realized something. Luigi Mangione equals 136 in Simple English Gematria. Great Awakening equals 136. Luigi Nicholas Mangione equals 217 in Simple English Gematria. Something Big is Coming equals 217 in Simple English Gematria. 217 hints at the date 217, which is the date in the book of Genesis that the flood began on. And also on 9/11, it was two planes that struck the two towers 17 minutes apart because it points to this date 217 in the Bible. Once the killer was caught, an image came out of him grinning next to an image from the new The Lion King movie. In fact, it was a McDonald's Happy Meal with the image on it. James Earl Jones, the voice of Mufasa, passed away exactly 13 weeks prior to December 9th. Mufasa being the king in the movie The Lion King. James Earl Jones is the voice of Mufasa. He died exactly 13 weeks before the shooter was caught, and then the image came out of him grinning next to the Lion King movie image, a McDonald's Happy Meal. M is the 13th letter, and the McDonald's Golden Arches logo is the letter M, which confirms the 13 weeks connection here. And this gets us into something astounding, because Obama is symbolic of Scar, or rather Scar in the movie, the bad lion, is symbolic of Obama. Scar in the movie assisted the death of Mufasa. Mufasa was hanging onto the cliff, and Scar caused him to lose his grip and fall to his death. Similarly, Obama will assist in Trump's heart attack. This makes this really precise because Trump will die from a heart attack, but it obviously won't only be because of what the deep state through Obama will do, because Trump likely already has some, he's old and he eats McDonald's. And he took the mark, the thing, which affects the HEALTH of a person's HEART. Okay, but like Scar, who caused Mufasa to lose his grip, Obama and his cohorts will use a directed energy weapon to cause Trump to have a... When Scar sings the song, "Be Prepared," one of the lyrics is, "Be prepared for the coup of the century." This is from the movie, which God is using for prophetic revelation. And now we can interpret Scar as being symbolic of Obama. When Scar sings the song in the movie, "Be Prepared," one of the lyrics is, "Be prepared for the coup of the century," which is exactly what is about to unfold. The coup of the century. The coup of the century has already been unfolding. I mean, the shoplifted referendum in 2020 was part of this. This coup has been going on since Obama was elected president in 2008, in fact. This coup has been going on actually since the early 20th century. The communists have been plotting the takeover of America for a long, long time. And Obama is simply one step and stage in the communist revolution that is now unfolding in America. All right, but also during this scene in the movie, Scar says, quote, "Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again," unquote. That's amazing, because that alludes to the coming food shortage. And if you stick with the Antichrist, you'll be all right. You'll have the food. But those who don't stick with the Antichrist, the political enemies of the Antichrist, those who refuse the mark of the Antichrist, will be restricted from buying and selling food. They'll go hungry. That's amazing. Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again. That's completely Obama and what is coming. Later on in the movie, after Scar has become the king of the tribe, it shows that there is a famine. Okay, so that's what's coming after Obama becomes the king of the tribe of America. The famine is coming, as described in Bible prophecy. The Lion King was released the new animated version, July 19th, 2019, 197 days before the shooter was caught and the image of him grinning next to a Lion King image. And 197 is the 45th prime number, which hints at the 45th president, whom Scar will assist in dying. Elton John composed the theme song for the original The Lion King. John performed at the White House Garden on September 23rd, 2022, exactly 7 years, and in Bible prophecy, a 7 years period is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. Elton John performed in the White House Garden exactly 7 years after the two Antichrists met in the White House Garden, when Pope Francis visited Obama at the White House, in the White House Garden. Incidentally, when Obama visited the Pope at the Vatican, he gave the Pope as a gift a box of seeds from the White House garden, which hinted at the seed of the serpent in Genesis chapter 3. And then when the Pope came, and the box of seeds from the White House garden was in appreciation of the Pope being the first Pope to open the papal gardens to the public. And that's why they met in the White House garden. And when the Pope came to the U.S., he gave Mass in the Madison Square Gardens. Okay, so anyway, the two visits were 7 years apart, or rather, the Elton John performance was exactly 7 years after the Antichrists met in the White House garden. Now, when John performed on 9/23/2022, this date was 808 days, which hints at 88, which is the equivalent in gematria of Trump, and HH, as in Hilton Hotel, before the Hilton Hotel shooter was caught, and the image of him with the McDonald's The Lion King Happy Meal was shown to the world. All right, some more connections here to confirm that indeed the Lord is using the Lion King movie to point to the death of, or rather the murder of President Trump. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, the voice of the young Simba in The Lion King, was born exactly 666 weeks before Donald Trump's 48th birthday, which is at the 48th president. The Lion King premiered the next day, the day after Trump's 48th birthday, on June 15th, 1994, at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles and Radio City Music Hall in New York City, which would be near where the shooting was, and near Trump's tower. Matthew Broderick, the voice of the grown-up Simba, was born exactly 44 years before Barron Trump was born. And that's relevant because Barron Trump is the last Trump. He is the last of Trump's kids. He's also used in God's Science because Donald Trump and Melania Trump did not intend to have a kid and contemplated having an abortion, and this was when, or rather after Barron was born, from what I understand, played a big part in Trump changing his mind and position on abortion. Because he obviously, having had his son, would not have regretted it and would be horrified to think that he could have actually not had his son, Barron Trump, as a result of an abortion. And so it's exactly 44 years before the last Trump. Again, Barron Trump is the last of the Trump children, which is symbolic of the last Trump, and the phrase, which is a reference to the phrase that the Apostle Paul used regarding the rapture and the escape of God's faithful, but also the long last trumpet blast that the Israelites blew before the walls of security collapsed. And again, Trump is synonymous with the border wall of security collapsing in God's judgment. 44 years, obviously, because the 44th president is the Antichrist, who, incidentally, after releasing his fake birth certificate forgery, the digital-only format, on April 27th, 2011, 3 days later, Obama at the White House press correspondence dinner made the biggest lie and joke about the biggest lie in history saying and showing a clip of the scene, the iconic scene from the movie The Lion King, in which baby Simba is born and held up on the mountain for everyone to see, claiming that this was the scene of his birth. Not only is it the biggest lie in all of history that he made a joke about because he's the Antichrist, but the movie The Lion King was inspired by Hell's Gate Canyon National Park in southwest Kenya, right near where Obama was born. It's all prophetic. But what's also prophetic about that is Trump was at the White House press correspondence dinner. And in Obama's comedy sketch or comedy speech, he made fun of Trump, mocking what a Trump presidency would look like. And then Trump became the president. And so that was an extremely prophetic moment, bringing the two together. And through the movie The Lion King, and again, Trump's rise in popularity in politics was initiated through largely calling out Obama for not having been born in America. And so that's why we had this moment at the White House press correspondence dinner with this scene from the movie The Lion King regarding Obama's birth, Obama having released his forged birth certificate because of Trump, calling it out. Where's the birth certificate? Right? And again, it was proven to be a forgery. The sheriff from the 6th biggest county in the U.S., because no one else would do it, hired 2 unbiased, independent forensic labs in Europe to analyze the released in only digital format document, and it was concluded to be an obvious forgery with 9 points of layered obvious forgery. It was a layered document with 9 points of obvious forgery. But of course, the mainstream media would not pick that up. But actually, the local mainstream media did report that in the city of Phoenix, the 6th biggest county in the U.S. The local news outlets did it. And I mean by that, the ABC, NBC, the Alphabet Soup, they did cover that, but not the national media outlets that are not only partisan, but have communist operatives inside these organizations, working with the deep state, the double government. Oh, Simba is equal to 44 in simple English gematria. And Matthew Broderick, who was the voice of the grown-up Simba, was born 44 years before Barron Trump. This is also amazing because Matthew Broderick is involved in the Ferris Bueller's Day Off signs, which I made a video explaining, which is an amazing thing. Make sure you watch that video. Now, Jonathan Taylor, the voice of the young lion Simba, was born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Okay. Donald Glover, the voice of Simba in the updated live-action version of The Lion King in 2019, was born 8,088 days after Barack Obama. And Donald J. Trump is equal to 888 in English gematria. I should say Donald Glover hints at Donald J. Trump because he was born 8,088 days after Barack Obama. This new Mufasa, the Lion King, for which the shooter held an image up next to his grinning face, I think, I could be wrong. Maybe the image is from back when, in 2019, the other Lion King was released. I'm not sure. But anyway, the director of this movie is Barry Jenkins. And of course, Barry is the real name of, speaking of fake alternative names, Barack Obama was named Barry, but he changed his name to Barack as an adult And who does that? Who changes their name from a classic American name to Barack? Who does that? Think about it. What kind of person does that? That's a person that's not exactly happy with his home culture. Okay? Let's be honest. The Lion King, and that's the makeup of a Marxist, by the way. That's who Marxists are. People that are bitter and resentful and are hating their own culture. That's the truth about communism, right? It's not really about an alternative economic model, of course. It's about wanting to bring down the establishment and bring down the society. It's evil. Communists are pure evil. And once a communist, always a communist, unless they become a reborn Christian. The Lion King 2019 movie had a wide release on July 19th, 2019, 911 days after Trump's inauguration. More confirmation that this movie, with its plot of a murder by Scar of Mufasa, the king, is all pointing to the death of the king, Donald Trump. A line from the movie here. The hyena says, yeah, be prepared. Be well prepared. For what? For the death of the king. Scar says, be prepared for the death of the king. The hyena says, why? Is he sick? Scar says, no, fool. We're going to kill him. And Simba too. Now, the day after the shooting of the CEO of United Healthcare, Obama delivered his speech at his foundation talking about, think, the conservatives don't realize how evil, I mean, the pundits, responded, but not completely. The things that Obama said in that speech, this has to be the most evil speech he has given. And the things he said in it are, first of all, everything that the Democrats are doing, the communists are doing. And I mean the two are equivalent to each other these days, right? The Democrat Party is a communist party today. And everything they are doing, or everything that Obama accuses conservatives of doing, is exactly what they're doing. That's a classic communist Marxist tactic to do that. But it's so wicked. It's so wicked. I recommend you listen to Obama's speech and understand it with discernment. And in light of what I'm saying here. But Obama says, he kept repeating, when the other side refuses to play by the rules, which is exactly the Democrats refusing to play by the rules. It's the Democrats that are using lawfare and shoplifting referendums. What in the world is he talking about? But that's exactly what his words are designed to do, to cause frustration and anger on our side. The side of truth, that is. But anyway, he says, when the other side refuses to play by the rules, it's time to fight back. It's time to fight. What's he talking about there? Well, we know what he's talking about. He is Scar. It's time to fight back. That brings up the time when Obama said, when your enemy comes to the fight with a knife, you bring a gun. I mean, this guy is a radical, hard left communist, right? He was part of the May 19th Communist Organization when they bombed the Capitol building. Don't forget that. I've proven that with this prediction. All right, now, yeah. So anyway, that speech was the day after the shooting of the CEO. That speech was the day of the 7.0 magnitude earthquake off the coast of California. California in simple English gematria equals 88, as does Trump. Trump spoke on the coast of California on September 19th. I forget the connection now, but it connects to the 7.0 earthquake. And the 7.0 earthquake and the day of Obama's speech is 7 days before it is predicted that Obama will murder Trump. Which, by the way, will be almost exactly 7 years after Trump declared Jerusalem the capital of Israel, which was exactly 70 years after the UN recognized Israel as a state. Which makes Trump a type for King Cyrus, described in Isaiah chapter 45, Trump the 45th president. Cyrus, who liberated the Jews in Babylon after 70 years of captivity. Which is why 7 years after Trump's declaration that Jerusalem is the capital on the 70th anniversary of the UN recognizing Israel, exactly, is almost exactly 7 years later is the predicted death of Trump. But it'll be 7 days after the earthquake, Trump being equivalent to 88 in simple English gematria. It's 7 days after the earthquake off California, and California is equal to 88 in simple English gematria. Okay, so Michael Jackson, my friend just sent me this. He realized that Michael Jackson dangling his son, infant son, Prince Michael II, over the balcony, this famous or infamous incident, on November 19th, 2002, mirrors the iconic scene in the movie when baby Simba is lifted up for everyone to see. All right? And the Prince Michael II, that's hinting at the, because that's what the Simba is in the movie, the son of the king. Prince Michael II is the name of Michael Jackson's son. Michael Jackson being the king of pop. Now, Michael Jackson, well, it wouldn't even be possible to start talking about Michael Jackson. But he did die as a result of a homicide. It was ruled a homicide, but didn't exactly look like a homicide. Just like it's predicted that Trump's death won't exactly look like a homicide, but it will be. Michael Jackson died of a homicide. It was ruled in court that it was a homicide due to a thing that was used to put something into someone. That's why shootings, in this shooting also, is symbolic of things that come out of guns and go into people, are symbolic of the thing that comes out of things and go into people. Now, Michael Jackson, MJ equals 23 in simple English gematria, and Barack Obama was the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school. And Barack Obama's inauguration was exactly 322 weeks after the dangling of Michael Jackson's son over the railing at the hotel. All right, now 322 is a number God uses to hint at Genesis 3:22, which is the big lie, symbolizes the big lie at the beginning of the age when the serpent, Satan, in the garden told Eve that she shall surely not die, which will be the last lie of the age, which will be that people can achieve immortality without God through taking this coming thing that will be promoted by demons pretending to be aliens. Okay? Now, and also promoted by Obama, the Antichrist. That's the reason for the 322 weeks connection between Michael Jackson, because he's known for having died from taking a thing. at the age of 50. Now, what also I just realized, I just calculated after this realization that this is a sign, which of course it is, that's an amazing insight. This November 19th, 2002 date is exactly 200 months before the release of the Lion King movie on July 19th, 2019. 200 because it is 90 plus 110, which God uses 9 and 110 to hint at 9/11, the 110 stories towers that cracked the foundation of Federal Hall on Wall Street, which was a wall that was built up, which was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out, and on and on. And so that's why the exact 90 plus 110 months between the time that Michael Jackson held his infant son over the railing for everyone to see, to the release of the movie with the iconic scene with the baby Simba lifted up for everyone to see. Okay, what's also relevant is that the shooter was caught on December 9th. The shooter was caught on December 9th using a fake ID from the third state. And the crime that he committed, the story about it, is how he fired at least 3 times. So the story is how he fired at least 3 times at the CEO and was using a fake ID that was from the third state, and he was caught with the fake ID from the third state 3 days before it is predicted that Trump will be murdered. And so that's more confirmation. The firing 3 times is more confirmation of the addition of 3 days. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, Please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the Odysee.com or Rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.